Hi, this is Don on YouTube. This is the third video in the Mary Ann series. This one is Mary Ann, the Supernatural Covenant is the title I'm giving to it. I just wanted to kind of step away from the two books I was examining and uh, and just kind of focus on Mary herself, apart from seeing what different books in the Bible have to say about her. I guess in sort of a way we're looking at tradition now. What what is not necessarily contained in the Bible, but sort of an assumption about Mary. Uh, like the Bible, especially Matthew, says something like Mary was a virgin. So I mean, and he's getting that from supposedly the Old Testament, Isaiah. But is that what virgin actually meant to Matthew, or maybe even to Isaiah? I think I think a woman in the age of Mary had like three options. They could either get married at a very young age and have multiple children, basically a life of drudgery, which might still be the case for some women in today's society. Second choice would be to walk the streets. I don't want to be coarse here, but uh, that would be another option in those times. A third option would be actually the one I think Mary was enrolled in by her mother or her parents. Uh, I've read some things. I don't remember where exactly, what book it was, but it says that Mary was dropped off at the temple, right after she was born. This is how much the parents wanted her, or felt God wanted her to be dedicated to Him and Him alone. And so, in that sense, she was a virgin, consecrated to the Lord Himself. It has nothing to do with sex or uh, being married, betrothed. So, if you're familiar with logic, I did a little something here on my bullet what do you call it? The dry board, dry pen. I don't know how to get it up close here. But a truth statement is called a tautology, if you've ever studied logic. So I think this is the symbol for truth statement. So if you say Mary had a baby, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then you also uh, uh, add to that another statement that Mary was a virgin. Right away, your critical mind is rejecting that and saying that's not equal. Having a baby and being a virgin is not a truth statement. But if you were to accept these two statements as true, as the truth, then this third, therefore Mary's child was God, would seem acceptable. I think that's what the Bible is asking us to do, is to make this leap of faith from these two statements to this statement. A plus B equals C. But in order to do that, you would have to do what Samuel Taylor Coleridge calls the willing suspension of disbelief. So I think that's the problem in just discussing Mary from a biblical point of view, because you're going to get stuck in that kind of reasoning, which I'm kind of saying these two statements are contradictory. So it can't be, if you're looking for some I can't think of the word. If you're looking for something to believe in, it's got to be it would be more like Mary was a virgin. Start with that statement. That she was dedicated to the Lord from an early age. She basically served God in his temple. And so now she has a baby. Mary's child was God. It makes a little bit more sense in that perspective. But the other way around, the way I first presented it, Mary had a baby, Mary was a virgin, it doesn't, the brain just can't wrap itself around that idea. But now if you think of Mary being betrothed to Joseph, there's no need for any divine intervention here. The Immaculate Conception, all these theological variations of how this could be, no matter how they phrase it, your brain just can't wrap around it. It's just not logical. So going back to the two books, where did I set them? The title of this book, In Memory of Her, like me, you probably would be thinking that's talking about Mary, in memory of her, but when you turn to the opening page here, it gives the title again, In Memory of Her, and then it quotes a verse from Mark 14:9. Whenever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. So if you look at Mark 14, it's talking about this woman who put perfume on Jesus' feet, and a man said, "Look at all the money she's wasting, on this expensive oil or whatever it is." And Jesus says, "Nah, that was a beautiful thing. I'm not going to be here in a short while, and she did a good thing here." And so the whole point of this book is that women they don't want to be bystanders. They want to be a part of life. And what causes them not to have that fulfilled in their lives? It's the men. The men want to be the women are supposed to just stand by and so when Jesus encounters women, he's always interested in them as persons, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The woman at the well, over and over again, Jesus is having these encounters with women, and that's basically all she's saying. The author's saying that there was this event where Stephen was stoned or whatever, where the women wanted to serve, the Hellenistic women wanted to serve at the table, and the Hebrew women or men said no. only Hebrews can do the table serving. So there was a split. That's what the book is about. There was a split where the seven Hellenistic leaders, whatever, broke off from the Jerusalem church. So different authors come up with these various ideas on things, whether there's any validity to them or not. I guess it's not all that important, but it does help the understanding of how are missionaries able to travel around without being beggars or something. Well, there had to be these house churches where they stopped over and got refreshed before they moved on to the next town or engagement. So in this other book, Mary, the Faithful Disciple, it's like in just discussing Bible verses or whatever, he never gets around to saying it's Bertrand, so it is a he. He never gets around to saying any of this stuff about Mary, at least not in anything I read in here. He never talks about Mary being part of the temple, of being dedicated to the Lord from a very early age, almost at birth, So it's interesting to read all these different viewpoints and passages from the Bible, but basically, when you're studying the Bible, there's always going to be some glossing over by the biblical writers because they're in competition with other religions. They're not going to give you the whole unbiased truth. I mean, it's good to think that way, that maybe they could, through some fortuitous circumstances, they could give us the honest truth, but in reality, we know that isn't true, because if they did tell the truth, then they wouldn't be able to compete with all the other religions that are in the world. They have to give us sort of a shiny, shined up shoes appearance. And that's exactly what's going on a lot of times in the Bible. It's like, this stuff isn't true. Salami couldn't have been a dancing girl because rich people just don't do that kind of stuff. She's in Herod's, was it Herod that killed John the Baptist? I can't remember anymore. But anyways, these stories aren't true, but they're part of the biblical lore, so you just kind of accept them for what they are, stories. So that's about it. That's all I wanted to say in regard to Mary herself, and not just these legends or traditions that have been passed down. I think you have to be a little bit more honest and get to the truth of matters, and instead of just taking a surface inspection, it's not really going to help you too much if you don't really critically examine things and figure out what's really going on. Thanks.